Sad. I've written a book called Being a Teen. People seem to want to know why has Jane Fonda written a book about adolescence? They never seem to find it strange that I wrote a book about aging. Duh. That was the one before this called Prime Time. And you know, it's been about 6 years from the time I started researching the book on aging until I finished writing the book for adolescents and their parents. And it's been so extraordinary for me to be able to cover that kind of spectrum of life. I have a really soft spot for adolescents. They're so hard to love. They are. You know, kids are easy. Babies are easy. You know, they're cuddly and they don't talk back. And then suddenly they hit adolescence and they get really prickly. And they make you feel that they know everything. You know, I remember one of the favorite bumper sticker I ever saw, it said, "Hurry, hire adolescents while they still know everything." And they make you feel that you're just an old fogey and that you don't have anything to say to them that means anything. But guess what? It's really important to keep this in mind. They do need us. They may turn their backs when you're talking to them. They may act like they don't care what you're saying, but keep being there for them, keep talking, because they do listen. Adolescence wasn't considered a unique stage of life, but now we know that it is. And it's a very critical time in the stages of human development. It's the gateway to adulthood. It's a time when a person moves from concrete thinking, you know, what is happening right now, to abstract thinking, the future, values, moral issues, big concepts. It's when teenagers begin to separate from their parents, to individuate, as Carl Jung called it. And this can be very painful for parents. It's when they begin to decide whether the values of their parents really are their values. They begin to explore what they really believe as opposed to what their parents believe. And again, it can be very painful. Individuation is an integral part of adolescence when they're developing their own identity. It's mostly, that's what adolescence is about, the development of identity. It's especially challenging for boys because testosterone, which boys have more than girls, relates to the sex drive and aggressiveness, whereas estrogen, which us gals tend to have more than boys, is the cuddly hormone. You know, it's the heart hormone. It's the hormone that makes us good at relationships and really want to be in relationships as opposed to just sex. Adolescence for girls is very different than it is for boys, and I'd like to talk about that for a minute because I think it's one of the things that I find most fascinating. For most girls, not all, but most girls, the first decade of life, pre-puberty, is a time of agency. They're feisty. They climb trees and they wrestle and they say, "Oh yeah, who says?" They're not so preoccupied with how they look, not so worried about their bodies. It's when they enter adolescence that the trouble begins. Again, not for all girls, but for most. They begin to feel the pressure of how it's supposed to be as females. Girls can lose confidence when they hide what they really want, who they really are. Boys, on the other hand, it's different. If traditional socialization takes aims at girls' voices, it takes aim at boys' hearts, encouraging them to lose the deepest, most sensitive, empathic parts of themselves. They're not even allowed to be depressed, which is why men so often engage in various forms of self-numbing. And what can happen as a result is that they become emotionally illiterate. The head becomes bifurcated from the heart.